Okay, I think it's been a few minutes, and I hear it calming down a little bit. So maybe it's a good time to ask some people to come up and sort of share what they have been working on. I'm going to start with the far back table, since you're at the back. If you want to come up and just sort of give an overview of the things that you were thinking about.
Oh shit, there's a thing. Okay, so we focused on sort of the friction of onboarding new collaborators and contributors, that good first issues can often be written in a fairly esoteric way. So like the person who's writing the issue knows a lot about it, but someone who is not already familiar will look at it and be like, I have no idea what to do. Then finding out what to do can be difficult. Like you have to attract the attention of a collaborator. If it's like a documentation update, the documentation for Node is kind of like buried off to the side. So just finding where you need to go in the code base, it can be quite a challenge. And in terms of attracting new contributors, even though we are not a product company, we could follow the model of others who have like sort of ambassador programs, just to like get faces out to say, so that people see that like there are actually people making Node.js. I think we are probably like a phantom organization of like Node.js just kind of appears. So if they could see, oh cool, there are people that we can talk to, there are people making this thing, that could probably help a lot. And that's it.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. It's kind of like dangerous coming here. Okay, so we were discussing, so I started with my personal experience. So I started contributing to Node because the first Code and Learn happening in Austin. For me, that was an amazing idea. Before that, Node.js Core was really, like a really core place where I didn't want to go. After that, I was familiar with it. I started helping in the tests, like a lot. I did like 40 commits, fixing tests, something like that. But my problem was that I didn't actually get engaged in a serious project, because engaging in a serious project requires mentoring, requires someone teaching you the ropes there. So we were discussing an approach to solve this problem. I mean, we already know how to get first-time committers. We got many of those, but how to take that from the level 0 to a regular contributor. So we were talking about doing like workshops, kind of like Node schools, for example. Node school taught a lot of people how to do Node. We can create workshops that can actually teach people how to contribute Node. They need like some guidance, right? So a mentor could create that and maybe do some office hours doing that workshop, solving a question. And it will be way better if at the end of the workshop, folks could get some tasks to execute to a specific project in different areas of the course. So I will say, let's say, for example, let's create a workshop for streams, let's create a workshop for releasing, a workshop for threads, stuff like that. So that will be, that's the idea we were discussing. The other component that we were talking about was about retention. So long-term collaborators, they have some issues, they burn out, they got some social pressure, so I think a discussion needs to happen about what the project could actually do for to preserve the current and long-term contributors, because right now we are not doing a great job about that. I mean, yeah, so that's it.
Hello. So we were thinking that there are 2 points on the project that we could improve. The first one is like we noticed that a lot of people come on the OpenJS Slack channel and they say, oh, I would like to collaborate to help with the project, but it's also very hard to have a mentorship program because it requires a lot of effort to mentor someone. So it would be great to have resources, especially now that we are creating a new website, to teach people on how contribute, also improve documentation, create tutorials, and like have some sort of like guide for new contributors, and also improve the documentation that we have now, because I personally noticed that it's quite hard to navigate through our contributing MD files and all these kind of markdown files. So this would be the first point. And the second one, I think it would be great to engage, for example, first-time contributors that open a pull request with teams or working groups, or at least like Slack channels. So if someone wants to keep contributing on a certain area of the project, they can be engaged and have this kind of feeling part of a team. So this could be done in a synchronous or asynchronous way. For example, security working group, we have bi-weekly meetings every 2 weeks. So this could be done if it's like good for the team, or just a Slack channel, or whatever kind of channel that creates this feeling part of a team and like engages people wanting to keep contribute on that area. And that's it.
I learned my lesson from everybody else and did not trip. Yeah, this thing, you really got to look before you step over. So we talked, similar to I think a lot of people, we talked about different ways to get new people involved. One of the key takeaways was some consistency in content. Specifically, we talked a lot about like quick hit video type content, like 5-minute things, which would be nice. We were talking a little bit about the challenges and different approaches we could take, whether like, you know, like a 5-minute video probably, you know, would take hours to produce, so there's like a lot of effort there, but maybe there's ways to minimize that, maybe doing, we were kind of talking about live streams and how there's pros and cons there, but like, I think the key there was having some consistency so people could like see a weekly thing, if it was like 5 minutes long. Maybe audio it came up a little bit as opposed to, I think we talked about video, but anyway, I'm not sure if that's necessary because it's, again, a lot of work. We talked about getting students in through, I think Claudio's workshop came up about like getting, you know, your first commit on things. We talked about how there are a lot of resources for those commit paths, like you get your first commit, but they're hard to find. So maybe improving that. And then a thing we also talked about was it's not just about getting your first commit. There's all these working groups and teams and stuff. I mentioned that, like, you know, just showing up to these, you can just join a Zoom. It's actually that easy. And, you know, you don't have to say anything, just sit and listen until you're ready to talk about a topic. And that is another form of participation in the project that I think doesn't get quite as much attention. So I think, you know, as was said before, promoting those working groups and stuff, I think would be really good. Team, did I miss anything? No? Okay.
Okay, so I think some of the points that were touched before we discussed, like ambassadors, just because CNCF, for instance, has a slew of ambassadors every year, and it works out well. I think Kylie mentioned something that we thought was really good, is to spotlight, for instance, contributors every quarter or every month. So this could be, for instance, as a tweet or an X, I guess, or some kind of a spotlight. I know. Maybe X is not a good idea, but anyhow, some kind of a way to make sure that the person feels recognized, that their work is appreciated. I think another thing we discussed along the lines of what other people have mentioned is mentorship, but mentorship that is done in a more systematic fashion. For instance, identifying people that are contributing, that are new, but that have potential. And it's fairly easy to do this since many of you have a lot of experience, so you can identify those people. Then pairing that person with an experienced open source contributor that is either in the community or outside of the community as part of the organization that are members, and then trying to get that person to discuss, especially, for instance, female contributors that could be new and feeling very lonely since there's not a lot of other female contributors. So things like that. Did I miss anything? Oh yes, one more thing. I think, Robin, you mentioned badges. So there's probably a way for us, if we establish, for instance, a spotlight or something where people have done so much that we wanna give them a special badge that they can add to their LinkedIn. Maybe that's part of the ambassador. So once you become an ambassador, you get a badge, and that's something that just stays with you, so that you can, collect those badges. Okay, that's about it. Excellent. Thank you.
I'll make sure I don't trip again. So yeah, thanks. I think it sounds like everybody had some really good conversations. It was hard to break you out of those conversations, so they obviously were good. I'd say, keep thinking about this. I think for me, in my mind, it's pretty critical to the project health that we grow long-term contributors who stick around. I really like some of the ideas, like the ambassador program. I do hear from people sometimes, they're like, well, I didn't know I could show up for the meetings, and how easy it is, like what Wes says. And just making it, sometimes I guess for new people, making it clear that they can just show up and participate, and to feel comfortable doing that's key. I think on the flip side, the longer term, keeping people once they're in, I kind of like the idea of, it's after the attracting part, but after somebody's shown some promise, if we could identify those people and then help them. I think, Kylie said maybe a buddy system, right? Because the project can be quite complicated and in depth. I don't think we can, there's been past mentorship things. So personally, I've seen them try, some people spend a lot of effort, but trying to bring in people who haven't done anything yet it's hard to find buddies and mentors for them. But if we identified people who had already sort of overcome the initial hump and had done a couple of commits, a couple of contributions, and then said, oh, wait a sec, here's somebody promising, then helping them stick around might be a really good win. So, I guess I'll say keep thinking about that. Maybe we'll create an issue where we can continue to brainstorm in there, and I think there's at least a few ideas from what everybody's discussed here that we should try and roll out. So I think that's it for this topic. I don't know where we are on the schedule, but I think the security session was the next one.